Linda Brooks woke before the sun, as she had for most of her life. The apartment was quiet except for the ticking kitchen clock and the distant sound of traffic beginning somewhere beyond the neighborhood. At 62, her knees hurt when she stood too quickly, and her fingers stiffened in cold weather, but habit was stronger than pain. She wrapped an old cardigan around herself and moved toward the kitchen. Tea first. Always tea. The kettle hissed softly while she stared out the small window above the sink. The paint around the frame had started peeling years ago. She kept meaning to fix it. Or ask Ethan. Then she always stopped herself. He's busy. That phrase had become her answer for everything. Why hadn't he visited in months? He's busy. Why did he forget to return calls? He's busy. Why did holidays feel smaller every year? He's busy. Her son was a doctor now. Doctors saved lives. Doctors worked impossible hours. Doctors became important. And mothers learned not to interrupt. The kettle whistled. Linda poured tea into her favorite mug, the faded blue one Ethan gave her when he was 13. The words "best mom ever" had nearly disappeared from years of washing. She smiled anyway. Some things stayed precious long after they lost their shine. The morning passed quietly. She watered 2 small plants near the window. Folded laundry. Reorganized a drawer that didn't need organizing. Loneliness often disguised itself as chores. Around noon she opened an old photo album. She told herself she was cleaning. But really, she missed him. The first photo showed Ethan at 6 years old with missing front teeth, holding a science fair ribbon. The next, Ethan at 10 beside a broken bicycle he insisted on repairing himself. Then one at 16, exhausted at the kitchen table surrounded by textbooks. Linda remembered that night clearly. He had been studying for exams until nearly 2 in the morning. "I'm tired," he'd whispered. "You should sleep." "I can't." "You need rest." "What if I fail?" His eyes had looked frightened. Not of failing school. Failing life. Linda had sat beside him and touched his hair gently. "You won't fail. You don't know that." "I do." "How?" "Because nobody works harder than you." His eyes filled with tears then. "What if I never become anything?" Linda smiled through her own exhaustion. "One day people will call you Dr. Ethan." He laughed weakly. "You think?" "I know." "And then?" "Then you'll open your own clinic." He grinned. "And you'll sit in the waiting room telling embarrassing stories about me." She pretended seriousness. "I'll tell every patient how you cried over biology homework." "No." "Yes." He laughed harder. Then said words she carried forever. "You'll always have the best seat in my clinic, Mom. Always." Funny how children promise forever without understanding time. Linda closed the album carefully. The apartment felt unusually silent. Her phone sat on the table. No messages. She wondered whether Ethan had eaten lunch. Then shook her head at herself. Even now, she worried whether a grown man remembered meals. Mothers never really stop. Near afternoon, Linda stepped outside to water flowers growing in cracked pots beside the building entrance. The flowers weren't impressive. Cheap marigolds mostly. But caring for something living helped. The air was warm. A few children rode bicycles nearby. An older neighbor walked past carrying grocery bags. Then Mrs. Parker from apartment 4B hurried toward her holding a phone. Linda looked up. "Everything all right?" Mrs. Parker smiled brightly. "Linda. Isn't this your son?" Linda frowned slightly. "My son?" Mrs. Parker turned the phone around. At first Linda only saw balloons. Then glass doors. Then people dressed formally. Then, her breath stopped. Ethan. Standing tall in a dark suit. Smiling. Beside him stood Claire wearing an elegant white dress. Behind them, large silver letters stretched across the building entrance. Riverside Family Health Clinic. And beneath, Founder, Dr. Ethan Brooks. Linda stared. Her fingers tightened around the watering can. Mrs. Parker kept talking excitedly. Oh my goodness, he opened his own clinic. You must be so proud. The words sounded distant. Muted. Like hearing someone underwater. Linda looked closer. Ribbon-cutting ceremony. Guests. Flowers. Photographers. Champagne glasses. Celebration. Her heart beat harder. The clinic. His clinic. The dream. Their dream. For one strange second, happiness flooded through her. He did it. The little boy who studied under dim kitchen lights. The teenager who worried about exams. The young man she helped through medical school. He had done it. Pride rose so quickly it almost hurt. Then another thought arrived. Quiet. Sharp. Why didn't I know? Perhaps the opening hadn't happened yet. Maybe these were promotional pictures. Maybe invitations were delayed. There had to be an explanation. Mrs. Parker smiled warmly. You must have had a wonderful time. Linda forced a smile. Yes. Her voice sounded uncertain even to herself. Yes, wonderful. The lie surprised her. Mrs. Parker continued chatting before eventually leaving. Linda remained standing outside several minutes longer. The watering can slipped slightly in her hand. She stared again at Ethan's smiling face on the screen before the image disappeared. Back inside, she sat at the kitchen table. The tea she made earlier had gone cold. Her eyes drifted toward the clock. 2:17 p.m. Too early to call. He'd be working. Busy. Always busy. So she waited. At 4 o'clock she folded towels. At 5 she reheated soup but barely touched it. At 6 she checked her phone twice. Still nothing. No message. No invitation. No explanation. As evening darkened outside the windows, anxiety settled heavier inside her chest. She hated questioning him. Hated feeling needy. Parents weren't supposed to need reassurance from children. Still. She needed to know. Around 7:30, after staring at Ethan's number for nearly 10 minutes, she finally pressed call. The ringing felt unusually loud. 1 ring. 2. 3. Then someone answered. Claire. Oh, hi, Linda. Polite. Surprised. Not warm. Linda straightened instinctively. Hi, sweetheart. Claire sounded distracted. Background noise echoed, dishes perhaps, or television. Linda swallowed. Tried to sound cheerful. I hope I'm not interrupting. No, it's fine. A pause. Then Linda said gently. I saw some pictures online today. Oh? Yes. Ethan's clinic. Another pause. Tiny. Almost invisible. Yet something inside Linda noticed. She continued carefully. I wanted to ask when the opening is. Silence. Not long. But enough. Then Claire laughed softly. Light. Casual. We celebrated yesterday. The words hung there. Linda blinked. Her mind struggled to catch up. Yesterday. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Yesterday. The event already happened. The ribbon had been cut. The guests attended. Speeches given. Photos taken. Celebration finished. Without her. Her voice emerged smaller. I'm sorry. Another pause. When did you say? Claire sounded mildly confused. Yesterday. Linda stared at the wall opposite her kitchen table. The faded wallpaper suddenly looked interesting. Anything easier than absorbing this? Oh. That was all she managed. Just one syllable. Claire continued. It was busy. Lots of planning. Linda nodded automatically despite being alone. I see. Another silence. Then she forced herself to ask. It looked beautiful. Claire sounded pleased. Yes, everything turned out really well. More silence. Heavy now. Linda waited. Maybe Claire would say. We wanted to surprise you. Or. Your invitation must have gotten lost. Or. We missed you. Anything. Instead, Claire said casually. We kept it small. Linda's fingers tightened around the phone. Small. The photos showed dozens. Maybe more. Business partners. Friends. Relatives. People smiling beside Ethan. People who apparently fit inside small. Claire continued. It was mostly close family and business contacts. Close family. The phrase landed quietly. Yet hurt more than shouting ever could. Close family. Linda repeated it silently. As if testing whether she heard correctly. Because if close family attended. Then what was she? An obligation? History? Someone from an earlier chapter of Ethan's life? Her throat tightened. Still she fought to sound normal. Oh. Again that tiny word. Claire kept speaking. You know how these events are. Linda said nothing. Very formal. Formal. The implication unfolded slowly. Formal enough that she didn't belong. Formal enough for investors. Not mothers in old cardigans. Not women who spent decades counting pennies. Formal enough for appearances. The realization arrived all at once. This wasn't forgetting. People forget birthdays. Return calls late. Miss small things. Opening your life's dream. That required planning. Lists. Invitations. Choices. Somewhere during all those preparations, Ethan and Claire had decided who belonged. And Linda's name never made the list. Her chest hurt unexpectedly. Not sharp pain. Something heavier. Older. The feeling of becoming unnecessary. Still she protected them. Because mothers often do. She whispered. I understand. Claire exhaled softly. Relieved. Good. Then quickly. Anyway, we're heading out now. Talk later. Talk later. The conversation ended before Linda could answer. The line disconnected. The apartment became silent again. Completely silent. Linda remained seated. Phone still against her ear long after the call ended. The clock ticked. Somewhere outside, a car passed. Life continued. Ordinary. Yet something inside her had shifted. Slowly she lowered the phone. Her hands trembled slightly. Not dramatic shaking. Just enough. Enough to reveal hurt she refused to name. She stood and walked toward the cabinet near the living room. Inside sat an old shoebox. Worn edges. Faded corners. She opened it carefully. Memories lived there. Ethan's childhood drawings. Report cards. Certificates. Tiny notes. A hospital bracelet from when he broke his arm at 8. Then she found a folded piece of paper. Yellowed with age. His handwriting uneven. Age 10 perhaps. It read, "When I'm a doctor, Mom will never be lonely again." Her vision blurred instantly. Not because children break promises. Children grow. Life changes. But because somewhere between becoming successful and becoming important. Her son had stopped seeing her loneliness at all. Tears came quietly. No sobbing. No dramatic collapse. Just silent tears falling onto old paper. The kind older people cry. Controlled. Private. Used to disappointment. Hours passed. Darkness filled the apartment. The tea remained untouched. Dinner sat cold. Near midnight Linda stood by the window watching distant lights. Then, in the silence no one else heard, she asked herself a question she never imagined needing. When did I stop being important to my own child? And for the first time in years. She didn't know the answer.